Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People. And this morning I'd like to talk a little bit about the insecurity function and the polar function for and for intuitive thinking perceivers, NTPs, INTPs, ENTPs. You could also include in this mix ESTPs and INFPs who share one of the two matters we'll be talking about. So, specifically, SE and FI. FI is my polar function, which means it's my blind spot, which I'll get into a bit more the difference between the insecurity and the polar in a second. And for me, SE is my insecurity function. For the INTP, it's the other way around. SE is their polar, and FI is their insecurity function. So I find myself learning a lot about ENTPs, having Nick stay with us periodically. He spends a lot of time down in San Diego with Jewel, or not San Diego, but wherever Jewel lives down there. Spends a lot of time down there with her, but he does spend a certain amount of nights here, and I get to watch him get stuck like I do and be less aware of it than me. What I mean by get stuck is he runs along ideational tracks about things he could do, and he'll become enthusiastic about a given ideational track, presented as something he's going to do or wants to do, and is looking for agreement about that, but not actually looking for commitment to do anything, or he doesn't want you to view that process as committing him to do anything. He wants your enthusiasm and agreement. When it comes down to it, he may or may not end up doing that thing. He may end up taking a different course of action. What often happens between him and Jewel is he'll describe this stuff he wants to do or thinks he should do, and they'll have an argument about whether or not he actually should do it. I heard a bit of a conversation the other day about he wants to go travel up to San Francisco to do some more network job hunting stuff. And I understood Jules' perspective. I didn't hear her end of the conversation, but I could tell what it was. Which was basically, why are you trying to begin a different course of action? Why are you ideating about how differently you could be pursuing stuff when there's stuff in front of you can still follow through on? It's a lot simpler, easier right in front of you. And the answer to that is, if you were to ask Nick, I'm sure he'd tell you a whole bunch of stuff about why his ideational path this time is preferable and we should prefer it. But, of course, that's fine, provided at no point did anybody think the ideational path was going to actually dictate what we're going to do. And that's the problem with SE as an insecurity function. What's interesting is INTPs have much fewer issues with extroverted sensing. They may not use it very effectively. In other words, following through on shit, doing shit, putting a handle on stuff is not in the INTP's playbook. But it doesn't mean they don't get stuff done. It doesn't mean they don't periodically accomplish things. It just means they've got what I would call polar approximation replacement things. I wouldn't call them that. If I were to have another opportunity to call them something, I wouldn't call them that. But the point is, for me, FI, I replace FI with certain things. It's my polar. It doesn't matter to me. I don't feel insecure about it. I don't care about it, really. So, what do I mean by replace? For example, that I love Kimberly is a status that I've afforded her. It's permanent. So, I love her. Doesn't matter how I feel about her right now. That I like Kimberly is a status that I've afforded her. Doesn't matter whether I'm liking her this moment or not. I like Kimberly and I love Kimberly. That I think Kimberly's sexy is a status I've afforded her. It doesn't matter whether I'm turned on or by her at the moment. It's a permanent status. Why is it a permanent status? Because that way I don't even have to even worry about whether I am feeling this or that or the other thing. That's why one gets in a relationship. So one can have such matters attended to with these approximate statuses. The fact that that's not really using introvert feeling like it's supposed to be used, well, it doesn't matter to me because it's my polar. I don't feel like, oh no, I need to be better at FI. I just think, I thought we checked these boxes off, didn't we? Why are we talking about it still? you know, in contrast, extroverted sensing causes me a lot of, if I allow it to, if I choose to indulge in those things, can cause me a lot of personal countervaluing, ontological countervaluing. In a sense, what I mean by that is feeling bad about myself. When I do feel bad about myself, it's going to be along the lines of not putting a handle on shit, not following through on my own good idea, not following through on the thing I know I needed to do, squandering opportunities, not pulling the trigger on shit, not being consistent. All those kind of things are SE things. And to the extent that there's a physical aspect of SE, because of course SE is also shit like playing basketball and knowing how to cut to the hoop right here in the moment with, there's that real-time application of it as well. For me, the only application I really have of that in my life is sex. I don't really do any other physical activities. So, obviously, I told Kimberly right off the bat when I started the relationship that the number one thing, the most important rule for me is, the most important thing I need from her is for her to make me feel like a big stud. That it doesn't matter whether I actually am or not, or how she perceives me. She just needs to convince me that I'm rocking her world all the time, Does that sound strange? It seems a little strange to me. When I say it out loud, it sounds strange. But the point is, that's the difference between insecurity function and polar, in a nutshell. INTPs are terrible at SE and don't even know what that means. Not really. And they know their FI is shitty, and they hate above all being called out on not bringing the moisture in the right way or at the right time. So I don't exactly know experientially what that feels like. But if it feels the equivalent to the SE thing, then ultimately it's an indulgence in the wrong kind of defense mechanism. For me, when I'm feeling bad about myself over SE shit, whether it's sex or following through, I'm ignoring reality in favor of negative self-narratives in order to either justify hurt feelings or protect myself from accusations of unjustified or ignorant self self-aggrandizement, to protect myself against accusations that I think I'm better than I am, or that I made the horrible social mistake of presuming to be successful when really I was unsuccessful. Why do I choose to indulge in these particular framings that reduce myself, given the fact that, okay, if the reason is it's a defense mechanism, protecting against other accusations, I don't really need to frame it that way in order to defend against it. I can defend against it in much more proactive ways than that. That's not a good strategy. If it's, on the other hand, if it's like I'm indulging in it because I want to justify hurt feelings, or I'm trying to explain hurt feelings, or something like that, well, see, hurt feelings, they're not a good way to determine things at all. Because if in fact I've got cause to feel hurt feelings, then I simply need to attain justice in a very dry, detached kind of a way. Okay, well, look, I feel wronged because of this, and I need you to deal with it. One way or the other, we're going to have to deal with that. And I'm happy enough to parse away whatever my own indulgence, narrative indulgence, is as well. If instead I try to blame and hurt her back, right? That's a lot of things that happen. Is just, if somebody says something mean to you, or something you feel is mean, then you want to hurt them back. I do, anyway. I'm pretty good at resisting that inclination. I don't usually return fire with fire, because I understand myself to be rhetorically powerful. That if I choose to attack, it's going to sting. And so, and I know from my own experience, somebody who gets very attached to meanings, that some of those stings can last for years. I can be thinking about something somebody said 10 years ago, and still experiencing reverberations from the way that meaning sets collapsed into a tag from some conversation a long time ago. The critical thing to deal with when talking about insecurity functions, as opposed to polars, is to remember first and foremost, you're much better at it than you think. But also that when circumstances require it, it's gonna be, you're never gonna feel confident. You're never gonna feel confident because it's the thing that precludes you from using your tool function. That's what your insecurity function is. The polar is the thing that is you just can't even understand because of your tool function. The insecurity function is a thing that prevents you from using your tool function. So for me, what prevents me from using my tool function is SE. Following through on shit means I'm not getting to think about it anymore. I'm not doing any ideational work at all. Whether it's testing for consistency, whether it's parsing shit out definitionally for further explication, or whatever, whether it's additional deliberation before making a decision, I can't do it when I'm SEing. I can't make sex with Kimberly spectacular with TI. If I'm going to make it spectacular, I'm going to have to put the TI away. So that's why it's the insecurity function, because it requires that you not use your tool function, the main methodology that you use to deal with everything, the approach to events in the world and happenings that require will and decision making. You're going to go to your tool function every time. And your eighth function, or insecurity function, is the thing that says you can't use that. You can use whatever. You can use other things in coordination with this, but you can't use that one. But that's I always use that for everything. Not if you're SEing, you're not. Well, for INTP, they have any as their second function. What does that mean? They're always ideating about shit. They're always coming up with ideational work, regardless of what is presented in front of them. Like, here's a basketball. What are they going to do with the basketball? They're going to do ideational work. This person may have given me the basketball for a couple of different reasons. Basketballs can be used in a few different ways, and I'm going to sit here and do ideational work. So, for them, what precludes them from doing ideational work? Experiencing their own authentic attachments to things. For example, ideational work necessitates that you indulge in conditionality in some sense, because you're coming up with possibilities. So they're saying, well, he could be right because blah, or I could be right because blah, or I could frame it like this. Maybe I should think about it like this. Maybe I should think about it like that. Maybe I should think about it like the other way. Whereas throbbing beneath all of that is their one authentic perspective on it, their feelings. But if a circumstance requires them to use their authentic perspective about things, then they're unable to ideate about other possible perspectives, because attentionally their focus is on the authentic self-feelings thing, FI thing. So that's my video. I hope that wasn't too haphazard. I want to try to usually include documents when I'm making videos now, outline shit a bit, but I felt enthusiastic about talking about this idea about the eighth slot function being that which precludes you from using your tool function. And I think I covered the gist of it. And thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, don't be afraid to share or like it. And that would be very helpful for me. Thank you in advance. Bye.